So Robert De Niro's movie The Alto recently bombed at the box office, a film that held a $45 million budget. Let that sink in for a moment there, and only made $5 million worldwide, alright? So we're talking worldwide, and that really is something that we have never seen before by Robert De Niro. The fact that they spent this much money on a movie where he plays two different mobsters in one film, which honestly looks very comedic, but we already know that Robert De Niro is not taking the criticism too well. He's not taking the box office disaster well at all as we speak, based on exactly what he recently said about the critics, what he said about the audience members out there that absolutely refused to see this movie, and served as a boycott essentially against WB for even supporting Robert De Niro by putting him in this movie to begin with. But let's get into the overall gist of what's going on here with Robert De Niro and everything also what's going on with WB. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So there's no doubt about it that Robert De Niro is by far one of the most unhinged actors in Hollywood within the film industry. There's no doubt about that, because based on what he said about Donald Trump and his supporters, you know, like 8 months ago, 9 months ago, it really just tanked his career. And honestly, I mean, he's up there in age. He might as well retire at this point. You really can't keep pulling off that mobster role anymore. I think that all agendas aside from Robert De Niro and the comments aside that he said about Trump and his supporters, it's just that people are very exhausted of Robert De Niro playing a mobster. It just doesn't work anymore, especially now in 2025. However, this is where it really begins to get very interesting because, well, he recently took, of course, a lot of criticism, not too well. So, with the film industry already receiving tons of backlash from many of their films, either holding an agenda, a weak story, or featuring universally rejected actors, one major development going on now involves more to do with Robert De Niro and how he recently went on another endless rant, of course, against the critics after his film The Alto bombed at the box office from WB. De Niro recently delivered the following: I think it's pretty obvious where the know-it-all critics are coming from against our film that focuses on the life of a gangster. It becomes far too obvious that we know now that we are dealing with the MAGA crowd that has one mission in mind, and that is to ruin cinema and to ruin entertainment for others that want to see a great piece of art such as the Alto, which I think was a privilege to be a part of this great film. We can't tolerate this anymore, where we as actors have to deal with these people that act like gangsters themselves, that take their issues out on others, that want to watch a great mobster flick like this. I think it's ruthless behavior and childish behavior at that for who they are loyal to with this new presidency. It really is all Trump's fault that cinema is dying before our very own eyes, that we are seeing it happen right now with our film The Alto. I don't care what anyone else has to say, but it's a for sure thing that the critics that we are dealing with are all coming from the MAGA crowd that like to create trouble for others. They like to mess with other people's success, and that is a disgusting act on their part and why they don't belong in this country. This is why I think it's best to leave this country now, because this is not the America that I grew up with. It surely isn't. The Alto is a film that I had to sacrifice a lot of my time to invest in these very complex characters that really deliver the life of a gangster to the big screen. And to see the MAGA crowd giving our film bad word of mouth just goes to show you how far they are willing to go to those that don't support their political views. It's people like them that are the problem in this country. It's people like them that deserve to face justice in some way, shape, or form. Now, guys, let me just stop here for a moment. This is exactly why Robert De Niro is so universally rejected. Not only is he unhinged, but he really comes out with some of the most absurd stuff out there. Number one, it's not just the MAGA crowd that are just boycotting this movie outright, that want nothing to do with Robert De Niro, want nothing to do with any gangster movie, no less, that features Robert De Niro. But when you look at the trailer in isolation, alright, all rants aside that he made about Trump and his supporters, this movie just looked like absolute garbage. Alright, it looked low-key comedic when he's playing two characters. You know, you're basically just seeing Robert De Niro playing Robert De Niro face-to-face. I mean, that's really what it looks like. If you take a hard look at that trailer, or the TV spots, where he's like, I'm a gangsta, that's it, that's the life. you kind of just have that cemented into your mind about how he called Trump supporters gangsters. And when he says that line of dialogue, it just doesn't work. So, again, I think that WB made a massive mistake on their end, and this is exactly why they tossed him from any future movie roles many months ago. We talked about this, why they don't want to deal with him anymore, and the fact that this movie bombed at the box office only makes their decision even more concrete. Now, we already know that De Niro is not taking criticism well lately, not just catered to the box office failure of the Alto Nights, but also within Hollywood in general, of how there are more and more studios that do not want to work with those like George Clooney, Robert De Niro here, Alec Baldwin, Julia Roberts. The list goes on and on. Now, he goes on to really, go on further. People should not be acting like gangsters in the real world, he says. The MAGA crowd shouldn't be acting as if everything is in their control. What Trump and Elon have been doing to this country and to cinema is an abomination with their attack on DEI. I see nothing wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It really tells you something when Trump has to make an executive order to abolish something like that, and how he urged the film industry to exclude something that provides fairness in this business. So guys, DEI, I would definitely challenge that. It does not provide any kind of fairness in business. If anything, it provides the exact opposite. It really does exclude so many people from getting the proper roles in many movies out there, whether it's, from these major Hollywood studios or, whether it's coming from lower end studios, doesn't matter. The fact that you have De Niro really saying that by abolishing DEI, that's an abomination by Donald Trump and by the new presidency, etc., etc. This is exactly why Robert De Niro has no clue what he's talking about. This is exactly why he is so rejected now by the people, by the American people, and quite frankly, the entire world at this point. A lot of people are even beginning to just not watch his past films anymore, because whenever they see him on screen, they just have those comments cemented into their minds still. And his recent comments about the Alto Nights, it's not helping. It's not helping one bit. And, believe me, this movie is not going to make a profit. WB is taking a massive loss on this, tens of millions of dollars down the drain when it comes to the Alto Nights. And that's not factoring in marketing expenses, by the way. So that's another thing to think about. He goes on to close by stating, I can only hope people gain common sense to not listen to these maggots anymore that don't have a clue to what cinema truly means in this industry and just how much actors sacrifice to prove the people these roles that can be very difficult to perform. I am losing all my faith in this country, and that cinema is also, of course, losing its value and what we have been going through. So again, I think all, political, aspects aside, like I said before, this movie just looked ridiculous. I mean, take a hard look at the trailers. You have Robert De Niro talking about the life of a gangster to the face of Robert De Niro. I mean, that's basically what it is. When you look at those trailers, the marketing was just awful. It was absolutely, a terrible, expense for WB to even invest in. The fact that they really just doubled down on all of these different trailers, all these different TV spots for Robert De Niro's The Alto Nights, most of which, by the way, were seen online as opposed to on television, just goes to show you that they really had no faith in the project months into the actual production. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about De Niro and his overall rant about the Alto Nights bombing at the box office. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.